Hey, hey, hey. It is Rebecca Simon Peter with Leadership Mojo, and it's Holy Week. Thank you so much for joining me during this Holy Week because Leadership Mojo is for you. It's designed to empower you, it's designed to encourage you, it's designed to give you some new ideas and to help you be strong, be bold, be courageous in these times. And today for Holy Week, darn it, I thought I turned all my email off and there's stuff binging in there. Anyway, today for Holy Week, our focus is on embracing a Jewish Jesus and what that can really mean for the celebration of Easter this season. Now, this is such a topic near and dear to my heart. Not only did I write The Jew Named Jesus, but I'm born and raised Jewish, raised by a Catholic dad and a Jewish mom, Reformed family. I became Orthodox. And out of that is when I had the vision of Jesus that led me into the Christian community. But deep down, I am and will always be a Jew. And so the understanding, the Jewish understanding of Jesus is so important to me because I've learned Jewish history, I've learned Christian history, I've learned about Jewish heroes of the faith. I've learned about Christian heroes of the faith. And wouldn't it be nice to see those histories and those futures interwoven together and really come out to be something beautiful, integrative, mutually dignifying, mutually enlightening, and mutually life-giving? That's what I'm a stand for, is all of the above. And if you're watching Leadership Mojo today, I bet you are too. So thanks for being here again as we talk about embracing a Jewish Jesus. So this week is where the rubber meets the road for Christians and for a lot of churches because it's Holy Week. It's the week in which we observe the final days of Jesus's life. We watch as the events lead towards crucifixion, as the crucifixion unfolds, the quiet 3 days between Good Friday and Easter Sunday, the rolling away of the stone on Easter Sunday, the resurrection of Jesus. And my assertion is that Jesus was born a Jew, lived a Jew, died a Jew, and was resurrected a Jew. And that in fact, Judaism is the religion of Jesus, while Christianity is the religion about Jesus. And nothing wrong with the religion of Jesus and the religion about Jesus being different, but just to get clear on what those distinctions really are. So I think even though in some levels, even the most um, um, dyed in the wool Christian knows or suspects that maybe Jesus really was Jewish, in a lot of ways, the Jewishness of Jesus is really seen as an anomaly. So in a lot of sermons, a lot of commentaries, a lot of hymns, Jesus's teachings on love and justice and mercy and inclusion, they're set up as a contrast against the Jews and Judaism of Jesus's day, a contrast. And what makes him distinctive, we say, is that he's not like other Jews. He reached people on the margins. He talked to women. He ate with sinners. He ate with tax collectors. But these characterizations of a Jewish Jesus are still distorted. So I always turn to my colleague and esteemed colleague, Amy Jill Levine, the Jewish New Testament scholar at Vanderbilt Divinity School. And here's what she had to say. I'm going to quote here. Here's what she says. Jesus becomes the rebel who, unlike every other Jew, practices social justice. He's the only one to speak with women. He's the only one who teaches nonviolent responses to oppression. He's the only one who cares about the poor and the marginalized. That phrase has become a litany in some Christian circles. Judaism becomes in such discourse a negative foil. For whatever Jesus stands for, Judaism isn't it. What Jesus is against, Judaism epitomizes that category. Now, Amy Jill Levine is an Orthodox Jew, and I lived in the Orthodox Jewish community myself for 6 years, so I really know where she's coming from on this. And she's got a deep founding and grounding in Judaism that actually goes back, in some ways, traces its history right back to the days of Jesus. So when she speaks, I really listen, and in fact, she's been such a mentor for me and such an inspiration for me. So when Amy Jill Levine speaks, we should listen here. And so here's what I want to put forth. So, yeah, Jesus reached out to all kinds of people. Yes, Jesus absolutely counseled mercy and patience. Yes, he set people free. Yes, he healed people. But rather than see Jesus as different from the Jews around him, I think it's time to see Jesus, his ministry, as a natural evolution of the whole history of Jewish teaching, of Jewish ethics, of Jewish morality and practice and service of God. Because otherwise, if you see Jesus as something other than part of this trajectory of Jesus, of Jewish practice and teaching and morality and ethics and faith, if you do, then really you've cast Jesus as the archetypal anti-Jew. Let that sink in. If he's not part of the whole trajectory of Jewish teaching and discourse and history, then in a way, he's the archetypal anti Jew. So let's think about it together. If Jesus was fully Jewish, operating in a Jewish context, living a Jewish life, studying Jewish texts, praying to a Jewish God, clothing himself in the Jewish commandments, where else did it come from? Where else did it come from? If we believe that Jesus was one with the God of Israel, then surely Jesus drew upon the same source and sources that inspired all the other teachers, miracle workers, prophets, and kings that preceded him and surrounded him. Quite often, the rabbis of his era were arriving at the same conclusions that he was, from the Golden Rule to teachings on the Sabbath to the importance of love, of neighbor, and of enemy, and of God. So there were others like Jesus that were engaged in calling disciples and healing and miracle working. And even his interactions with women, his interactions with children, and his interactions with Gentiles, those were not anomalous. More than that, the Hebrew Bible / Old Testament is marked by a series of theological leaps and theological reversals, both behavioral and spiritual. So, beginning with Abraham's innovation that God is one, not many, continuing with Moses' skilled but previously unknown leadership in leading the Israelites from slavehood to peoplehood while maintaining a tremendously intimate relationship with the God of Israel. There were game changing visions from the prophets. There was the courageous renewal of Judaism under Nehemiah and Ezra after the return from the Babylonian exile. So I suggest that Jesus is the product of generations of Jewish innovators, completely aligned with the spiritual genius that went before him and indeed that continues after him. So I think if we're truly to embrace a Jewish Jesus, it's got to take a renewed scholarship among preachers and prayers and poets and professors and Bible study writers and teachers. Now, it's going to take some work to leave behind the comfortable but dishonest dichotomies that we have about Jesus and the Jews of his day and the Judaism of his day. I get that that's not easy for already overworked church leaders who are dealing with pandemic and war and division of every sort, but I wouldn't say this if I didn't think it was incredibly important to do it. Because as I write about in The Jew Named Jesus, it's really worth the effort. Even though there's been historical reconciliations from the time of the Holocaust onward, we're actually living in a time of a tremendous uptick in anti Semitic behavior, not only in the United States, but across the world. Synagogues are being targeted, bombings, murders, anti Semitic scrawls and slurs, anti Jewish sentiment clothed as anti Israel sentiment. My family has long been in the newspaper business and owns and publishes the Intermountain Jewish News, a weekly award-winning Jewish newspaper. I get the Jewish news every Friday before the sun sets, and I read with interest, not only because it's my family, but because it's my people as well. And there are pages and pages of anti-Semitic attacks that appear week in and week out that are being documented just so that we don't forget, so that we're aware of the pressures that our people are under. Sometimes in the Christian world, that information doesn't transfer across the lines, only if it makes a big blast on social media and then it's there for a day or two, or maybe an hour or two. But I want you to know that the attacks upon Jews right now are sustained, they're real, and they're scary, and they're worldwide. And as Christian leaders, there's really something that you and I can do about that. And it starts with how we talk about, understand, preach about, pray about, and lift up Jesus. If we lift him up as the archetypal anti Jew, then people are right to put down Jews. But if we lift him up as a Jewish leader, a prophet, a priest, a man of God, God himself, Jewish in upbringing, culture, awareness, and understanding, then a person who stood with and for his people, not against them, but with and for. Yes, prophetic. Yes, challenging, but with and for. If we can understand Jesus in that way, then there would be much less reason, theological, historical, emotional, to scapegoat Jews. In fact, there might be much less reason, historical, theological, emotional, to scapegoat anybody. Because sometimes we have it that in order to stand with and for Jesus, we have to stand against somebody else. That Jesus was always against. But if we understand that he was for people, then he can be for everybody. And we wouldn't have to align ourselves with being against anybody in order to be for Jesus. This matters during Holy Week because Holy Week had historically been a time, especially in the Middle Ages, when good Christians poured out of churches to harass, torment, and murder Jewish neighbors. In fact, I did a whole workshop on this, Good Friday, Bad Friday, the death of Jesus through Jewish eyes. Good Friday hasn't always been seen as Good Friday. Depends who's looking and talking about it. We have an opportunity in these divisive times, in these troubled times, to lift up a Jesus that truly represents resurrection power by understanding Jesus as one who stands with and for all humanity. Jews, Gentiles, Christians, whatever term you want to use, the insiders, the outsiders, the marginalized, the people right at the center of things. Jesus with and for everybody. Now, what an amazing model and image that is for us as we approach Easter, resurrection. May our hearts be lifted. May our minds be cleared. May our arms be wide to give a large embrace to the whole world, following a Jew named Jesus, embracing a Jewish Jesus who stands with and for the world. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for being here with me today. And be encouraged, be strengthened in your work as church leaders, and keep your leadership mojo going. In fact, if you want to be aware of future leadership mojos that are coming out, hit the like button or the thumbs up button, and that'll give you access to notices in the future. Share this with somebody else that may be needing to hear a word of encouragement. And if you're interested in copies of The Jew Named Jesus, contact us because we bought out the stores. We have all the copies of the book that are left, and we're happy to make sure that you have copies that you need. Thank you so much. May you have a holy, holy week and a beautiful, blessed Easter. He is risen, risen indeed. Amen.